NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5070 rumored to feature 8960 cores and 300 watts TGP, 17 more cores than 4070Ti. New specifications regarding a fourth NVIDIA Blackwell gaming GPU have emerged, and this time, we are looking at the GeForce RTX 5070Ti. NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5070Ti to feature 17% more cores than the 4070Ti and slightly higher power rating. So far, we have talked about 3 NVIDIA GeForce RTX 50 Blackwell GPUs which will make their debut in the gaming segment next year at CES 2025. Now, VideoCards has managed to get information on a fourth variant from renowned leaker, Copite7Kimi, who has laid out the initial specifications of the T variant for the RTX 5070. NVIDIA's GeForce RTX 5070Ti is going to be sandwiched between the RTX 5070 and RTX 5080, both of which will be targeted at high-end and enthusiast gamers. The GeForce RTX 5070Ti is set to use the GB203 GPU, the reference board labeled as PG147 SKU 60 inches. This graphics card will feature a cut-down configuration of the GB203 GPU, which will also be used on the RTX 5080, so the PCB will remain pretty much the same with minor changes. As for the core configuration, the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5070Ti is rumored to feature 8960 cores, which is more than the 7680 cores of the RTX 4070Ti and 8448 cores of the RTX 4070Ti Super. This is 16.6% more cores than the RTX 4070Ti and 6% more cores than the RTX 4070Ti Super. If we go another generation back, then we can see that the RTX 4070Ti featured a 26% core count uplift versus its predecessor, the RTX 3070Ti, so in that aspect alone, the 5070Ti isn't as big of an update as the RTX 4070Ti. That is also the case with the RTX 5080, which has a minor core count bump over the RTX 4080 and the 4080 Super. As for the TGP, the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5070Ti is expected to feature a 300 watts TGP, which makes it 15 watts higher than the 285 watts rating of the RTX 4070Ti and its Super variant. Again, not a huge bump in terms of power requirements, but overall, that's a good thing. The RTX 5080 and RTX 5090 do have a bigger bump in power specs versus their predecessors. But once again, TGPs shouldn't be seen as actual power consumption, which in the case of Ada RTX 40 inches GPUs, was much lower than their rated TDP/TGPs. The RAM configuration is currently unknown. Would be rather interesting to see if NVIDIA goes with the full 256-bit bus and a 16GB capacity, or cuts it down to 12GB with a 192-bit bus. It should be pointed that the RTX 4070Ti launched with a 12GB and 192-bit memory interface but was later upgraded to the 16GB and 256-bit memory interface in the Super upgrade. The NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5070Ti is expected to debut next year. So far, we have only come to know that the company plans on unveiling the initial trio as the RTX 5090, 5080, and 5070. The 5070Ti may be launched at a later date, since the 5090 and 5080 are expected in January, while the 5070 is aiming for a February retail launch. With that said, CES is going to be action-packed with next-gen launches by NVIDIA and AMD, so stay tuned for more info.